your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you step by step in acrylic how to paint this gorgeous spring mountain landscape. Now this is a mountain backer, I believe, in Washington, and it's got the spring wildflowers going on. We've got a great sky. It's going to be a very good class about mountains and landscapes. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He helps me bring you these live classes. Make sure that you can see every part of the technique in action. We have robotic cameras. They zoom in. We break the lessons down into distinct steps. Those steps are time-coded after the videos so you can find your place again really easily. And we really will be breaking this down into a very beginner level. We do rate it 3 hoop, but that's on this particular one, I think it's mostly because of the time. I expect this to be a slightly longer lesson. For it to be the painting that you guys have in your heart that you want to do, right? Because there's that painting you have in your heart. I've gotten pretty familiar with the painting my community has in their heart that they're hoping to do. So we're going to go for that today. All right, let's go over the materials and then we'll move on to step 1. So I'm on a 16 by 20 canvas. I had some wishes come in, so I'm going to put those up. Justice where it's just needed most. And peace around the world. So the world's going through stuff, different people around the world, and they're saying in wishes. So justice and peace where you need it. Relief and compassion where it's needed. And this is one that I really like, came in anonymously, an end to hate crime. Now I'm going to say this, John, definitively. Hate crime is stupid. It's just stupid. It doesn't help anything. If you're feeling that frustrated, talk to somebody about it. That's what will actually make you feel better. Feelings can be overwhelming and powerful, but you don't want to take those into the world and harm somebody pointlessly because it doesn't solve any problems at all.
You know, it's a interesting thing I heard somebody once say, hurting people hurt.
Hurting people hurt other people. So if for some reason you just happen to watch this and you're like, wait, I've been so angry lately, just trust me. Everybody gets angry. Everybody has stuff that they're going through. The best way to get through it and actually feel better, the fastest way through to feel better about your world, is to talk to somebody and get some help with like a mental health clinic. I really like betterhelp.com, and talk to somebody about your feelings. Chances are there are solutions in your own life.
I hear painting helps.
I hear painting helps too. Painting is a good place to take strong emotional feelings, and I do recommend it. It's much better than taking them onto the street and expressing them on strangers.
So what do? Do you teach painting here?
I do teach painting. What? I do teach painting. I'm not responsible for wishes, sir. I'm just speaking on them. Okay, so 16 by 20 canvas with wishes and intentions done in watercolor painting. Over here, our background is going to start with phthalo blue, titanium white, Mars black, phthalo green, and burnt sienna. We're going to do a very interesting thing here. Step 1. Put it up, John.
Okay. I can think. Shh.
If you go to the website, and hopefully the moderators have it, to the video page, you're going to see resources. One of the resources is a traceable, because I never expect you to be able to draw, to paint. It's just not something I expect you to do, so you can always find that resource. You can also find the reference for this and the grid reference. Right? So the grid reference is where I bisect the canvas into equal segments, and we use that to help us block out or draw easier. So let's talk real quick about that. I've already gridded the canvas into vertical and horizontal lines. The vertical lines are measured at 5 inches, 10 inches, and 15 inches. The horizontal lines are measured at 4 inches, 8 inches, and 12 inches. That's because this is a 16 by 20. So you can see this gives us big, nice, open square. When we use the matching grid reference, and I'll sketch this in so you can see this better, you then don't have to draw, say, the whole mountain. And we're going to do just the major structure lines. Because, weirdly, we have this background, a very narrow little middle ground, and then a foreground. And we need to break them up because they're going to have different underpainting colors, John. And I want to know where I'm putting my blue, my gray, and my dark green. Okay, let me come over here just below the 8-inch mark and start talking a little bit about this space. There's a little square space kind of through here that's middle ground, right? But we're going to paint a lot of that way. And then over here, we got a little bit of middle ground coming up on the distant hill. And then there's going to be a bit of foreground flowers right here that are really close and in focus and detailed. But what we need to be able to do is do a distinct sky here, a gray base here, and a dark green base here, because acrylic is often built up in layers. All right, You want to take a picture of our grid?
I can.
And again, the moderators are here. Those are butterflies with wrenches, and they have links to resources here. If you're watching on the replay, you would be able to see those links on the chat, but very often they're also in the description. Huh? Yeah, too graphic. Step 2. We're so pro, we're like, too graphic. Step 2, taking a picture for the step-by-step later. We've been doing written out mini books of these they release. We announce the releases of them now in the newsletter because they've become really time consuming, but well worth it. Well worth it. And if you're looking for that, that's where we break down each step with the brushes that I used and the colors that I used and the techniques that I used with the step photograph. So if that's a resource that would help you, I highly recommend you watch out for that, sign up for the newsletter, don't unsubscribe, because that's where I tell you if they're out. And I'm so excited for the newsletter because it's become so helpful, I think. You know, you get your gnome scope, your little star gnome scope, you get updates on upcoming classes, you get early looks at different events, contest entries. You just never know. There's games. There's even tips and resources and weird finds that I have. So it's a cool newsletter. And it's working. All right. There we go. Here on the easel is our canvas. Now up here we have the sky. And the thing about the sky is it has a little bit of an ombre, a little bit of a blend. So I'm going to get my water over. And I'm going to load up a brush. This is a number 24 Raphael Textura. In the Raphael paint line, I like the Textura brushes. In that line, every paint line has like some brushes that I kind of like. And I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that I don't really need my grid now. So I'll go ahead and wash this away. I do these with either chalk or watercolor pencil so that they're soluble and they disappear into the painting. I highly recommend if you're using the gridding method, not to use something that will bleed up through the surface and ruin your painting. Now, let's do a little trick here. Let's load up with some white and kind of prime our surface with a little bit of white. Because we're going to come back with the blue, but I want to make sure that we have a nice blending up into the sky. And this will be a great way to do that. All right, I'm going to wipe out my brush. Make sure my surface is ready to take paint. Not too wet, not too dry, just right. Take your phthalo blue, just phthalo blue, and come over into your white paint. I'm going to come here and brush from left to right on the flat of the brush very smoothly this light blue. The blue paint really blends better on the surface this way. So it's a nice way to start. You can see we've got a nice little going there. Now as I move up, I can add a little more color. And I can very easily come through here and touch lightly with my brush, blending a slightly darker sky. Okay, we get that little bit of ombre.
Mm-hmm.
Ombre, ombre, ombre. And when we come down, it also kind of gives us a little bit along the mountaintop. So it's just a weird trick, the white on the painting. Just another way to get that sky effect. I come across and go over this. There's sort of a clarity to these sort of mountain blue skies where there's no clouds and things are cold. I don't have to be perfect about my mountain. I just have to be general. And I want to make sure that that's all blended. You see I kind of made it nice and even. Very sky-like. Next one's super easy. I'm going to take my blue and my black and I'm going to make my very favorite gray. It is my Payne's Gray, the Sherpa Payne's Gray, which uses a phthalo blue base. And I'm going to go over and paint my whole mountain in with that darker color. This will make everything I've got to do later just a little bit easier. I'm using the edge of the brush. And I'm going to fill that color in. And I bet you can guess where the green starts. So there's real zones to this painting. Sometimes there isn't these kind of clear zones in landscape painting, but this particular painting had very clear zones. So I'm leaning into them. And just paint that whole background in that blue-gray. Nice dark blue-gray. You know, we're going to come back. There's lots of tonality on. We just want a deep value to start building from. It doesn't have to be super neat because this part has a lot of painting work in it. It's not like the sky. You can be a little bit like, be a little bit, yep, technical term. And I want a little more black on there, I get it. It all builds up pretty well, so you don't have to feel too stressed about it.
Just that simple under mountain
painting.
Under
mountain. Dwarves under this mountain.
You're a dwarf. You would stop painting here.
Right.
This
would
would be
under
enough.
it.
You're just like, nope, I just want the under mountain painting. Don't need anything else. Everything else is just not needed.
Did we literally make a Lord of the Rings painting joke? I think you did. I think he made a Lord of the Rings painting joke. Everybody give him a hand. Hand.
Stephen Colbert would be so proud of me.
Stephen Colbert would be very proud of you. He'd be like, this is my painting party. There were Lord of the Ring painting jokes. I know I'm where I belong. Everything down here is going to be a mix of phthalo, green, and burnt sienna. And you'll notice I'm not like thoroughly mixing these. I'm just making some dark values to work from. I'm kind of hoping to channel my inner Studio Ghibli today.
I'm not sure. That's a bag of mixed tricks there.
No,
it's sort of like, I'm going to reach into this bag of holding and grab some random object and throw it.
Well, actually, it's a very specific aesthetic. I was, I'm always up late watching things. I watch, like, today I learned that's a very dangerous show for me to watch because I learned so many things. You guys almost got a wish that no meteor hits the planet in the next 300 years. Because I stayed up watching about this big meteor that hit in 1908. Couldn't believe it was true. Turns out it was true. It didn't actually hit. It exploded in the sky. And we couldn't explain it until we started, I guess, exploding nuclear bombs. And then we were like, oh, that's a crazy kind of explosion that ruins everything. So good it happened in rural, area. But,
yeah, so probably not going to make any more. We're at a statistically high number of large asteroids passing closer than one lunar.
Yeah. No, they said every 300 years. That's what he said.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Trojan asteroids that are in the Earth orbit that occasionally we're like, yeah, we probably should be watching those guys.
Yeah. Let's watch the skies. That's going to be my next wish. Watching the skies. Like we're Agent Mulder. Anyway, Studio Ghibli, which does animations, and they've done some of my favorite animations in my life. They have a very particular type of landscape and grass and floral that's so charming and idyllic. It's a real distinctive look, and I'm hoping to channel it today. To pull in my inner Studio Ghibli. And there will not be a meteor.
No.
So I'll tell you what, back when I taught any painting party, and if you're a painting party teacher out there, you know this is true. In any given painting party, whenever you do a landscape like this, somebody does a meteor event. It's going to kill the dinosaur. There's always one dude that's painting a meteor that's going to crash into the landscape. Just always.
It's true. There's always one in there.
There's always one.
Occasionally you get a Saturn.
So we have our sky, which is pretty resolved, right? That comes in pretty quick. The basis for our mountain in Mars black and phthalo blue and a little bit of white. And the basis for our green area, which was phthalo green and burnt sienna. These just give us a starting point. So we're not building up from a white canvas. That way, as we layer and things show through, there's a colored paint underneath. This is called a ground. And instead of just doing one color, we did an underpainting where we blocked out different zones. Guess what? Step 3, and you can photograph this. I'm going to sip my coffee because clearly I need some. Clearly I need some coffee. So do you guys like how this is coming in? And what's great is you'd be very new to painting and you can get through step 2, right? Some stripes and some stripes and some stripes. You got it. You got it. You can do it. You really can do it. You can. You can. I know you can. Someone right now is like, do you? Do you know I can? But you can. You really can do this. You know, you've just got to be easy with yourself. You've just got to relax. You just have to understand that this isn't about talent or some sort of mystical ability that was gifted to you at birth. This is just about learning a new skill. Yeah. So, enjoy learning the skill. Fun stuff. Even if this is a little bit of a challenging painting, don't worry about it because you're still going to learn a lot of art skills from it. I get to monologuing like a villain. You know?
It happens.
I'm going to put out some more colors.
Are you?
That's a little bit messy down there, but I'm going to ignore it. And I'm going to put out some yellow, CAD yellow medium, and I'll go over the colors again. I will put out some tight knit yellow. This is also called Naples Yellow Light in the Senellier brand. It's tight knit yellow. It's PY53. I have a whole blog about it because some companies make a hue of this, so it's not just PY53. And some companies do the pure pigment, and then they all call it something different. That can be frustrating for new artists. And that's what the blog is for, is to keep it from being frustrating. We're definitely going to put out ultramarine blue. And I'm going to go ahead and put out a little CAD red. Because I feel like I see some red in the rock. So we'll see how that is going. We've got titanium white here, phthalo blue, Mars black, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, CAD red medium, tight knit yellow, also sometimes called Naples yellow light, the green yellow color, not the Band-Aid color, and CAD yellow medium. I love in my life it's like the green color, not the Band-Aid color. Because too tight knit yellow. So if you're doing Acrylic April and you want to know more about this setup, you should come by on my studio setup video that's coming. You guys ready to paint in the mountain?
Sure.
Let's do this.
I'm just going to watch you.
Let's begin with some snow because those patterns are very easy for us to see and pick out. Keep in mind, snow is not really white except for a few places, so it can be nice to actually start this in the gray we made in the phthalo, in the Payne's gray with the phthalo blue and the Mars black.
It is
So we'll start up there. What?
Said it's especially not white wherever there are little dogs.
You have so many feelings about this now. Our dog really loves winter, though. He does. We have a bunch of little dogs in deep snow. It's highly entertaining. Not as entertaining as Moderator Viridian's cute baby, but very cute doggy baby. His fur family member is just awesome. I'm just stroking along. This is a number 12 round. I'm just looking for a big brush. Looking for a big brush that will let me...
Any big brush will do?
Any big brush will do. And I'm going to begin to paint in the basic snow pattern.
What is the basic snow pattern?
Well, the basic snow pattern, if you use the reference, is the areas where snow is and rock is not.
Oh.
So it's like a pinto.
So, okay. I got to...
You're just trying to put it in, like, basically.
But see, you can't see if I put it there. There you go.
And you can come back and make adjustments. We're just trying to say, hey, we do see some snow here. It's about layers, right? Because we're not doing the Bob Ross knife painting, right? You could stop there and go follow a Bob Ross knife painting if you wanted to do a Bob Ross knife painting. That would be okay. But we're going to be brush painting or traditionally painting today.
You know what's nice? If you do it in acrylic, though, you can get more impasto.
It's true.
So
I am doing the big areas. I'm not doing the little details, as you can see. I'm just hitting big areas of highlights. Now I'll come back and we may change some of this. Some of this may alter. Some of this may differ. I'm going to get more into my blue here because this snow here coming down this valley is a bit in the shade. And you'll notice again, it's pretty rough. Pretty rough.
It's in the shadow of Mount Doom.
In the shadow of Mount Doom. Where's Smaug? See, if me teaching a painting party, I would have put Smaug up in the top. Actually, you wouldn't be able to do this at a lot of painting parties because it's a little bit more involved of a piece.
It's a 3-hour tour.
Yeah, yeah. I used to figure out that it was about 3 times as long for students to paint whatever I was painting.
Yeah.
So an hour for me was 3 hours for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's a good kind of calculation for just understanding. It might take you a little bit longer when you're learning how to do the painting. Now, when you have this in,
yeah,
we're going to come in and we're going to come back with, interestingly enough, some brown. So I'm going to take my Mars Black and my burnt sienna and kind of make a brown gray. I'll add a little white to it because it's not completely dark. And come here and come back with a loose beginning of where the stones might be. And again, this will just be loose at this stage. You're just observing. Stones may move much faster than geology would move them in nature. Your painting may move your stones faster than you think. But right now we're just trying to say, we know that there's stones here, and there's white snow. And we've got to start thinking about those things. And this first kind of layer is a gestural sort of sketching. Your mountain sketching. Kind of giving yourself a way in. Sometimes in a painting, you just kind of need a way in to what you're doing. So this is our way in. We've broken down big areas of white and big areas of dark. And we're going to take a picture.
Okay. This seems like a good place
to take a picture. Let me dry it for you.
Okay.
You can say hi to them.
All
By the way, if you're just coming in and you're like, oh my gosh, that girl can paint. Wait a minute. Come back. If you don't believe, check one of my other videos. And I even challenge you to come back at the end. It's going to blow your mind because paintings of acrylic, they happen in about the last third of the painting. So there's craziness until it's just all magic.
Just is. So yeah, hi to y'all. How you doing? And yeah, between your layers of acrylic paint, you have to dry them to make sure that your next layer doesn't muddle up with the colors of the previous layer. You want your highlights to stay crisp and your lowlights to stay crisp and, you know, your midlights to stay crisp. Do midlights stay crisp?
Do what?
Well, highlights stay crisp. Do midlights?
Anything that has a sharp edge stays crisp.
That's what I thought. So you want to keep all your...
If you're diffusing, if you're scumbling it, it's not crisp. If you go stroke, it is crisp. It's sort of the, does it have an edge? Does it not have an edge? Who's coming to the How I Paint My Clouds and How I Paint My Water lessons that are coming up? Be sure and hit those, like the remind button on the upcoming streams, because those are going to be mind-blowing. I haven't done it in a while.
Is this a step in a photo?
This is a step in a photo. Did you step it? Did you step it? Okay, good. We timestamp these later. You can find the spot. You don't have to worry about trying to go forward in our talking or go back and see what we were doing or any of that. You can just locate your spot again easily. This is something we started in 2021. I realized that we have like 1,500 other videos. I didn't know it was 1,500. I keep saying 1,000, but I was like just going through lives and it was like, you have 1,500 videos. I'm like, why do I have so many? And that wasn't even my uploads. And I'm like, I think we have not updated how many videos we've done in a while. We have too many. So it's not in the previous ones, but it is a future thing that we're doing because I think it really helps you guys.
Yeah. All
right. Big brush still. Number 12. Number 12. So let's come here and grab a little brown and black. And I'm going to come from the side here and begin to do a little kind of striping up the mountain. This is geology, friends. I'm going to start painting more of the details of what I'm, seeing here. Because the mountain is a very interesting creature. They sleep, these mountains.
There's a rumor.
I watched all of, I think it's Mojin or Maojin on, and there's a whole riddle about it takes 800 years to roll over, so you don't know it's alive. No, dude, I would not know something that took 800 years to roll over was alive. That is a totally honest mistake. Why do I gotta die over it? Sorry, I watch a lot of late night TV. I have the insomnia. I'm gonna bring this up here and just kind of creating these smooth areas of stone. Sometimes it's nice to get a little yellow and brown into it. I'm on the toe of my brush. Playing with these. As you do. And I'll just keep dancing around different little bits. Now I know I've got a kind of a blue shadow here, so I actually will change out of my yellow in a minute. I may rinse out. Get a little red into my burnt sienna. And a little black. And these interesting different stone colors going. Based on mineral content and other things, what happens in a little more black mountains in these kinds of spaces is that sometimes there's more iron deposit. And you want to just really look at your references you're painting.
Can you tell there are iron deposits?
If the soil is very red, often that is iron.
Ooh.
When you see a lot of red running down or stripes, there's a lot of that. I'm going to kind of brush stroke this up. Here's a little bit lighter, isn't it? Stone is almost like a little sandstone. I can even get my Naples yellow into it, which does a really cool, look at that. Paint our little mountain in. A little bit of pure kind of rusty red there. A little bit of burnt sienna. Often what's really great about these mountains is they have these almost stripes. You get to sort of paint. I'm just brushing back and forth. Look at where we're at right now. Changing those browns. Speaking a little bit about the stones, because that's what you do. And coming here, that was a little bit of my cad red, Naples yellow, and burnt sienna.
Saying that this is this is from Mount Baker in Washington.
This is Mount Baker in Washington. I think we've actually painted it before. a similar time of year earlier on in the channel. It was one of our first lives, actually, I believe.
It's funny how some of those mountains end up being backdrops in movies, and like,
I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow there.
you see some mountains in the background, and they're like, we're in Europe. And you're like, but how come those are Canadian mountains?
Yeah. It's so true, though.
I know those mountains. Those are not, those are Canadian.
We were watching a comedian from Iceland, I think. And he was talking about, like, they have this very popular detective show in Britain, but it was only popular because nobody knew about the geography.
That's right. That's right.
It's like, where it's not big in his hometown because everyone's like, yeah, I know that area. It's not that cool. Continuing to, we're going to keep speaking about this cool value here. We're just going to build up, guys. Build and build and build.
Nobody thinks their own backyard is exotic.
Nobody thinks that. That is so true. That is so, so true. Nobody thinks their own backyard is exotic. A little white here. You'll notice, though, none of my whites are bright white. And that is because none of our, even when we do our stone, none of it will be in bright white. Okay. That's another layer.
Another layer.
It's another layer. It takes a little bit more form. You come into it, you start finding highlight, low light, shadow. Where are they? What are their overall shape? And then when you put the details in at the last bit, all of a sudden you're like, I got a mountain. Let's take a picture of it.
Okay. Is this a step?
It's a step. And I got to heat my coffee. Step 5. Mountain 5 will keep you alive. Step 5. So I'm breaking these down into smaller bits, smaller layers, because sometimes a painting comes together in a series of layers that in and of themselves aren't that complicated, but knowing that they're there and knowing how they build on each other is exceedingly complicated. So if we can break it down into these small micro doses, these little bits of painting, micro doses of painting, that sounds nefarious, doesn't it? Thank you. I hand my husband my coffee like, you microwave this coffee. Yeah, call the teenager. She'll do it. She should sit there and microwave coffee. He's being very sweet, microwave my coffee. So I'll talk a little bit about this. So as we're going forward, now we're going to start looking at the little patterning that is happening in the mountain. And we're going to be switching between our highlight colors and our stone colors and really trying to capture the pattern. When we do that palette knife technique I mentioned earlier, generally you have a dark field and then you take a palette knife and it skips. And that act of skipping and creating edges kind of implies a ridge or implies a snow area. And that is very cool. But sometimes when you're trying to paint a specific mountain, it has very distinct geography. And the awesome kind of random element that happens when you just do palette knife, it doesn't really lend itself to that. Beautiful, it's amazing, but there's different ways to get things done. And so hopefully when John comes back, I will give you other ways to get this done. Thank you, babe. You're amazing. Thank you, thank you. He's amazing. Everybody give him a hand. Sherpa's powered by coffee.
There we go.
Just needed a big cup before I started. Now I'm going to get into a smaller brush. And I think I'm going to go ahead and get into a hog bristle. This is a Silver Grand Prix. I learned that the Cambridges are maybe no longer being made, which I love, and that's such a shame. This is still being made. Here's what you need to know. It's not that it's this brush company, this thing. It's that it's hog, and it's a bright. That's what you're looking for. Lots of good brushes out there do this. And I'm going to start going between my snow and my stone. I'm going to try to kind of speak to some little bits of ridging and snowfall here. 'Cause it does it in little spots, doesn't it? And even me, I'm going to be paying attention a little more. Sorry, babe.
Oh,
Sometimes I go back and forth. It's like, oh, there's a little spot of valley that's caught here. Isn't that lovely?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go right into my blue. Maybe more brown. Brown on blue. Come down here and show that shadow. Do you see that beautiful blue, cool shadow? And it's like distinctly blue to the eye. I love that. Makes mountains so colorful. Now rinse out. And get back into my white. We come here a couple places. You want to, again, you're starting to pick out the more detailed pattern in the snow, like a pinto. And then if we've got to come back and add more stone, we definitely will. Do you have any questions while we're going? I realize I haven't left any room for anyone to ask any questions as I've been painting.
Let's see here. I've been paying pretty close attention to the switching here.
Yeah, you've been switching, and I've been like painting real like close attention. So I'm just adding those little bits. Now I'm going to come back with my brown again and kind of maybe define some of the different ridges that we're having happen over there.
So what? So if you're not going to be using the, I guess whatever they're discontinuing, they were asking about.
Yeah.
Have you found any new lines of brushes that you're interested in?
Yeah, I have. And we're going to talk about it when I do the studio thing for the thing because there's a lot of good brands of brushes out there.
More than you can cover in a painting lesson.
More than I could cover in a painting lesson. But what I'll say is right off the top, again, the Grand Prix is wonderful, but like if you even look at it like Creative Marks Pro Stroke, right? That's a good brush. The textures, the hogs from the Raphael lines are really good. Princeton has a bunch of really good hogs. It's really about knowing what makes a good brush more than saying, oh, this brand or that brand. You want to, as an artist, become familiar with, well, this is why this brush is good. You can add some, perhaps, little stone that's happening here. You just want to come back and paint what you see. Paint what you see. Little islands in the mountain. Get some black now. A little bit of brown and white. You'll notice I'm not rinsing out my brush that often. I'm going to bring a little right back here, and this starts to become a ridge just by that highlight.
A lot of little underpainting, shadowy areas. Now,
Yeah,
how do you know
where we build ridges and we find the shape of our mountain.
So how do you know where to do that?
I use my reference.
You're just looking at the reference and
I
just
look at the reference and things that stand out as significant. I make sure that I put into what I'm doing. I'm gonna add a little white here.
Now I'm gonna ask a leading question here.
Okay. Hopefully I can answer.
So
bring the brush stroke this way.
After you paint a few mountains, do you start to understand the rules of the shadow so it becomes easier?
So, here's what. Everything that you paint often becomes easier. If you paint it a lot, you'll start to get a sense of how it's constructed. what makes it look like what it is, what textures, what colors, what forms. It's some of the reason why I know I keep bringing up the palette knife thing. People have a lot of trouble with the palette knife thing sometimes, and that's because even though the palette knife technique is awesome, and it is, you still have to understand mountain to know when your palette knife hit it, don't you? You still have to know when the mountain looks and feels like a mountain. No matter whatever technique you use, that isn't really the big thing. Like, there are distinctive ridges, and the ridges will have highlights and shadows and real specific shapes and forms. So you've got to kind of come in there and find those. And see if you can't paint them and express them in color and line. That's all we're doing. None of this is really here. It's all just two-dimensional. So where this shadow is, I come and I define that. And where that highlight is, maybe I come and define that. Right? There's a little bit of a shadow that comes there. And then how do I find that? I look at the reference. And if it's just something I'm seeing again and again, I make sure that what is necessary to express it. So if you look at this, there's kind of a contour line. And then there's the ridge going down. Sure, there's little micro ridges and pops of highlights. But before this valley, there's a basic kind of little ridge there.
I clicked over and you were gone. I was like, where'd you go? You stepped back.
Shape here. You know, I like the hog bristles because they keep me from making too sharp of a line, and I want the diffused lines. Mountain is far away, and I want what defines it to be its value.
Interesting.
And when its values to be its defining marker. I really like the burnt sienna and the Naples yellow light, that tight knit yellow. Make me happy. I can come here and speak a little bit to this side of the ridge.
I have to say, you're making the dwarves happy. They value
All the dwarves
values.
are doing good.
They value values.
They do. Dwarves are very value conscious. Right. And then you can be like, but no, there's just before that, there's this little area right here. Thumbs up. So how do we find all those little spots? We look. And you can see where the highlight is, it changes the direction of the ridge. Where the highlight is, it changes the direction of the ridge. The reason that a lot of people struggle with painting mountains is that mountains have just a lot of personality. And you got to get in on it. Coming in with a dark color. You know, you want to get in on their personality. We'll rinse out. We're going to put in some cool stuff here. I'm going to get a little red into it and a little of my Naples yellow.
Thank you to everyone who's been supporting us here in Super Chat today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. A little of our Naples yellow and some white. We're going to make these little stripes of distant mineralization. This is a very fascinating part of the mountain to me. I'm enjoying painting it. Get a little more Naples yellow in there and a little more white. I haven't rinsed my brush out. There, the sand kind of comes forward and runs down. painting him, painting his personality. You know, there's a bit of a ridge here. I'm going to get this in real fast. I'm using a light value to talk about that. And then it kind of comes right here and curves down. The mountains are like that. They have shape. Crazy geological stuff happened. Caused them to be all hot, messy like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got to get it in. A little bit of my brown and black here, maybe. And come back there. So you've just got to find those tiny bits of form. I want to say that there's a bit of a subridge there. I just bring a shadow down. Wherever they need to be, that's where you got to put them. And I can always come back and get a lighter value of my stone by adding white. When we put in the bright snow, some really crazy stuff is going to happen. It really does blow our minds. Let's add some more highlights here. Add a little Naples yellow and white. Brush it there. I think it's real fun. Come here and play with this part. I'm going to get into my blue now. There's going to be a really cool kind of shadow that pops up from our snow. I want to make sure that there's room for that.
There's always room for more snow.
There's always room for.
This is something you don't know coming from a southern state.
There's room for more.
But there's always room for more snow.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
Just, you don't realize this. You think there couldn't possibly. Nope. You didn't realize that you could get 4 foot of snow stacked on a telephone line, did you?
But you can.
You totally can.
You super can. I'm going to get a little more red. You know, I can even add a little yellow into that. Speak to some of this formation here, which is so wonderful and colorful. I can even come in and talk a little bit about what's going on with some of the rocks and stuff, so that the mountain is should be as beautiful in some sense and color as the wildflowers we're going to be doing when we come forward. And yes, it's going to be a lot about the wildflowers, but when the mountain, I'm going to add this cad red, brown, and a little yellow some places just to make sure we've got worthy color. All right, let's call this a step, because again, I don't want to get too far ahead of everybody in the little paintings where I'm making little micro mixes, but you can see the mountain is starting to like take shape. And this is how we find it. You got to find your mountain. If it's a struggle, otherwise you spent 3 movies walking to the mountain. Twice. It's just books and books of walking. We're making Hobbit, and we're making J.R.R. Tolkien jokes. Because there's just a lot of walking. We all know it. We've read it. We know it. How are you guys doing? This can be challenging if you've never ever worked with this concept before. Guess what? I have a one hoot version of this.
Do you?
I do. I have a one hoot version of this. It's called Fall Mountain. It's like 30 minutes. It teaches these concepts in a very simple 2-color way. It's not, you get a great result. And that can sometimes help you see what maybe you're struggling seeing here in all these different little color values. So don't feel like, oh man, I got to get everything right now, because you don't. You don't have to get everything right off the bat. I'm going to grab some brighter white. Come to the top of the mountain. I'm going to brush some little corners of it out there. I'm dry brushing over this. It's okay with me if some of the white kind of skips and peeks through. It's sort of a version of the palette knife thing. Isn't it, really? I'm going to start putting the highlights on. There's this big, beautiful dry brushing over that. Where does the white go? Kind of like, where does the brown bear go? Where does the white go on the mountaintop as we paint on a Saturday? Where does the white go? Step back, take it in. Is it mountainy? Is your mountain mountainy enough?
I think that's really mountain.
It's gonna be. You know, if I want to talk about snow that's in shadow, not snow, can become blue. All right, so if there's some snow here, it's coming down, and get a little bit blue right here. Let's add a little bit of the blue there.
I'm going to give a big art hug to May.
Hi, May.
She's been painting with us for years and just, hasn't been chatting very much, but just did a really generous super chat support here.
Thank you so much.
Really wonderful note about how she's been painting with us. So thank you very much, May.
Thank you very much. That is just so appreciated. I love always to hear from our community who's maybe, a little quieter in chat or group, but they've been here and, they're part of our art family. It's always sort of very exciting to hear from everybody. It really is. Because you forget, with that little shadow of blue snow here, you forget how many people are painting along in their studio, not chatting because they're painting, because it's really hard to chat and paint. That's pretty tough to do. I mean, it just is. Like, even I struggle for sure with the chat and paint space. What you see me doing here is just finding little moments where the snow is banking up, banks up here, and comes around there, and it's a little bit blue snow coming down, and then I'll get right into the white as it's coming out here into the light. Look at that go. Just more snow. Kind of like how it probably feels in everybody's life right now. It's just a lot more snow.
There's always room for more snow.
There is, man. Each layer brings your mountain together. Each layer makes it something special and unique. Oh, it's just... curving those brush strokes over. Oh, hey, some of this falls over here. That's a nice little valley of snow right there that I like quite a lot. So hopefully in this journey, you're starting to see different little patterns that are emerging to your brain. What I always find interesting is what in the reference my brain says, this is what matters. And interestingly enough, might decide that another thing is not as important. And I think one of the things that's different about being an experienced artist is that you just start to trust your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that's happening is just, you're like, I'm good. I trust my opinion, and I think my opinion is good here. And so, these little spots maybe are important. Because they're what pulls it all together. And remember, step back, get a different perspective in your life and in your painting. Every once in a while, step back and look again. We're just still putting these white highlights and snow bits. Let snow. It's not skiable. Maybe it was a minute ago. Maybe earlier this winter, my dad was on this mountain skiing.
I can totally see that.
My dad is on all the mountains skiing because he is not a person who believes age means you can't do those things no more. And he's right. He's like in better shape than I am. He gets skiing. He's social distanced, like in ski resorts, I think.
Yeah, I think he did.
He's just like, I'll just stay up here on the top of the mountain. That's where I'm going to be. Yeah, it's just coming down.
It really is.
And now we're starting to have is a mountain. This mountain with snow. A little more white where I want to pick up highlights. You can have a couple values of shadowed snow. Make sure that those look good. Oh, I'm liking this. Just a happy little loosely painted mountain. But yet, it speaks to that experience of mountain. What I'm doing here is just looking for a little pop where the snow has collected. Could be different every year. How the snowfall falls. Might change. Depending on when and how. Very thick painting this up top. I want it to be very white. I might put out some more white. Because there's a couple areas I want to be very, very bright in the snow. Oh, it's looking lovely, isn't it? Mountainous. Mountainous. I mean, I know we're here for the wildflowers, but unless the wildflowers are framed with a glorious mountain behind them, in and be like, you see it? I see it, Hal.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
No, which is very rarely white. Even when it is, it very rarely actually is, isn't it? Now stand back and look. Take in your mountain.
Take in the mountain.
Ah! I love it. Okay, let's take a picture.
Take a picture of the mountain.
Yeah.
Are
It's
we at
just
a step?
fun. It's beautiful. Yeah, I think we should call this a step.
Call it a step.
Let's call it a step.
I think it's a good step.
Let's call it a good step. I like this step. Pretty happy, colorful mountain. Mountains. Purple mountain. Majesty. That's what that is. It's not really that purple, though, is it? Purple mountains are generally distant mountains. But still, I feel like if you live outside of Mount Baker, that's got to feel pretty good, right? You got your mountain. And you can actually probably go outdoors and paint it, you know, if you're wanting to. If you're wanting to. Now, because of the time of day and time of year, we don't have a lot of fog or cloud cover, right? We don't have a lot of that going on. We do have a line of distant little trees. I think that they're pretty awesome. And I've been thinking about how I want to put those in. And I think I'm going to grab a small scruffy brush. Now, this is a K-Ridge, but again, just get like a Simply Sim hog. You just want a hog. And I'm going to take, and this is a number 4 Hog Bright. And let's kind of start to speak to our far off tree, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Now first, I want to kind of get the dark, deep dark greenery we have going on here. I need to add some black to it. It needs to be dark. You could do a small fan, but I find in stuff like this, it's better that it's a little more diffused and out of focus because it's distant. So I'm going to actually get into the green and black because I want these to be darker. Tapping up and down. Try to remember that the tree's shapes, you know, are kind of conical and upright. They have random ups and downs, right? Random sizes. Some trees are small. This is an interesting part of the mountain that I imagine changes more consistently than other parts because trees die and grow and obviously more changes here. That's that first layer for these trees is just even the black and green. Now let's put one kind of long one here. Tapping, tapping, tapping. I'm not, again, we're thinking about the just sort of overall shape. And they're pretty narrow and tall. We're also breaking these up. because they are broken up. When you have a nice little collection of trees, I don't know that I'm ready. I have quite a nice enough collection of trees yet. I'm just looking for how I feel they'll look. This is sort of a very random, diffused, fuzzy up and down. See how far away they look now? Because we use that method. I'm going to take a little of my burnt sienna, phthalo green, and cad yellow. A little more burnt sienna. These are highlights for sure, but they're a little distant, aren't they? Little distant smoogies.
Mm-hmm.
Smoogies. I kind of work the corner of my brush. I do think it's a good idea to have a couple stiff hog bristle brushes in your kit. You know? But again, they don't have to be like pricey. There's a lot of good hogs out there. Farmers are like, what? Isn't that what I mean? But you know what I mean. And as I come through the highlights, if I feel like they've been over highlighted, I'll come back and put some shadow in what's going on. So, because these little distant ones really come between highlights and shadows. It's about contrast here, not as much about detail. You know, making sure some shadows happen. Just taking the shadow color back through. And I'm looking to give a sense of light source coming in, kind of, you know, highlighting the trees overhead, creating a little bit of shadowing in the branches. Sure, they're at a distance and they're out of focus.
Mm-hmm.
But you still want to have those dynamic ranges of lighting. Now let's stand back because we're going to put some little pops of highlights on. And once we have those, we can start moving on to middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
Middle ground is always exciting. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. I don't want this brush too wet because it's hog, so I don't want it too wet. More yellow. I might even get a little white into it this time. I'm just tapping up and down.
Mm-hmm.
What are those trees? They're happening now, aren't they?
Yeah.
You don't want too much bright color. And the reason is that they're distant, and so bright wouldn't really be everywhere. It would just be enough to give you the sense of trees and a distant growth. Just catching front edges. There's a similar way to do this with a fan too.
Mm-hmm.
I have a video with that example. If you don't have this brush but you have a fan, it'll work really well. And while I'm here with this color, I'm going to go ahead and get a little more brown and green on it. I'm going to come here and push up. It's not my bright color, my brightest color, but it is. Push up. And you can see what I'm doing is creating a diffused and soft, distant edge. I'm going to have grasses and things, but we just want to make sure it's not too bright. You do want desaturated. This is why these wear out fast. Because you can be rough with them. I'm pushing that edge, making sure it's just diffused. Little out of focus. Nice contrast, little out of focus. All right, let's call that a step. Other problem with these brushes, if this ever happens to you, this happens to a lot, you can just dry and glue it back.
It happens.
It does. It happens. It happens, and you just, whenever your ferrule comes loose, for whatever reason your ferrule comes loose, as long as the brush isn't new, sometimes they do just over time. I just find gluing them on with a little crazy glue, CA glue, woodworker's version of that, will hold them back, and you go another 6 months. So you can repair your brushes more than you think, and I'm of the philosophy one should never throw out one's brushes, because even a blown out crazy haired brush has a purpose. Maybe it's a bush purpose, maybe it's a cloud purpose, maybe it's a blendy purpose. We don't know, but it's got a purpose, and you don't want to take a brush away from its potential purpose. So here we are. We're going to come out here, and we're going to have to make some of this space kind of top of hill coming down, and over here where there's a path, this is where our little middle space is. So we've got to really think about that. I'm going to get back into my number 8. I'm going to grab a little black and brown. And from here, kind of coming up, I'm going to start to imply a dark path. Very dark. Now, I'll be putting a lot of plant life and things around this. So this is just kind of the beginning of how we're going to get there. And as we come forward a little bit, we can be a little more into the brown.
Oh, there we go. Camera switch there.
Okay. So we're just speaking some to the trail that's going off and then into the distance, right? So it's going off into the distance. Brown and black, rinsing that out. Rinsing in on black. Rinse out your brush. Make sure you dry it off. And again, I'm going to take a little of my cad yellow and burnt umber and phthalo green. I might want it a little darker. I might want it a little more in that deep value. I'm going to just roughly, on the right-hand side of the trail, start to add some plant life. Much like your mountain, you're going to be paying attention to shape and form, and come in and get a little more green into it. And a little more brown into it. Back with some black if I need to. Really shade some of this. Yes, we're going to put plants and things in there, but important. And this is where I'm really hoping I'm going to channel Ghibli, as I mentioned earlier, Studio Ghibli. If you are not familiar with Studio Ghibli, they have the complete collection on HBO Max and also on Amazon. Sometimes they have them on Netflix. The aesthetic of it around the environments, even if you ignore the anime itself, which I don't know how you would, definitely for Howl's Moving Castle, definitely for Spirited Away, where you're looking at the world, the way the grasses are, the way things are. It's this idealized world is my favorite. So as I go there, get a little more yellow into that mix. Right. Maybe some white. I'm going to just touch my brush, especially where it's distant. You know, bigger brush strokes as I'm closer, smaller brush strokes as I'm far away. See how we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
A little yellow sometimes, blending in. Now, a lot of this will vanish once the right side is in. So we've got to get this side correct first. I want to get some value to my grass. Moving forward, it can get brighter and greener. Hey, Twickles.
Little Twix visiting you.
Twix always likes to visit his studio assistant. Also hoping I drop something. Nibbles. Oh, okay. He's up.
There she is.
Sorry. Sometimes
It's
you've got
Twix
to
break.
pet.
It's a little Twix break. She comes in very insistent.
She does. And she does not know what we are doing or why we are doing it. And she just needs to make sure I don't have snacks on my painting table. Is really why she's here. She needs to make sure there's no treats. And also, she's just got lonely. Just a little bit lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can go. Feel better? She says yes. Feels better. Do you have an art dog or cat in your life who comes and visits you while you paint?
Persistently.
On the toe of my brush, and you'll notice that I kind of create levels and depths, changing directions. You know, what we do, you can always come back with some really deep green. Sometimes you can get phthalo green and white together. They make a really interesting, unexpected color. Right there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to combine that with some other types of low purple. So there's a certain type of high mountain vegetation that has more of that green color to it. That seems to be a lot about water conservation. I'm just doing little marks, the green and white. It'll be mostly along the path's edge. Don't lose your dark, because you want to keep that implied path going. Keep that implied path going. And while I'm here, I will go ahead and get some of my stone color, maybe with a little more yellow to it. maybe talk about a couple rocks that are there. Get some white and Naples yellow. We'll come back with some defining marks to make the rocks more rocky. It's just nice to have them when you need them. All right, let's call that a step, John.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You're already there?
I think we're already there. And I want to have the flowers be their own step, and then we'll do the other side and the same thing. That way you kind of get the sense of how they're all kind of individually done. Because they're a little bit different. And I think I'm going to put out some more burnt sienna on my palette, looking a little more green. And I guess I'm going to have to pull out some dots because we're getting to the space where we do have some purple. So we're going to be into our yellow flowers. We're going to be into our wildflowers, our blues, all these wonderful mountain morning colors. And that's always just a joy. But in the distance, they are yellow. So let's take a little bit of our yellow and our Naples yellow.
From a distance.
And then just a smidge of our cad red. And actually it's just to just knock that yellow back a bit. I'm going to open this up. You can see, I'll fluff it out. These are light little marks. There we go. Beginnings. Tap, 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 tap. The buds on these, they kind of float above the grasses, and they're very small. And you'll find them focused sort of towards the back. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
When you kind of make some little distant red wildflowers. Touching my brush, got it on the edge now. And I may get my magenta. There's almost a magenta into the flowers. I don't want to miss that, especially if that will help them feel like cool, far away little flowers that they are. There we go. We still want the red. There you
go. That's nice.
And these are spike flower, which is why I've switched my brush over in positioning. They have a slightly different aspect than maybe other stuff around them. You can't have them too bright, it'll pull them forward. But just want to get them where they're hidden in the field, they're there. Now over a lot of the green and kind of interspersed in there is this purple. A little bit of my blue, a little bit of my purple together. It is my ultramarine blue and my purple. And I'm going to get some white. And again, we're going to tap a little of that out. These little clumps of flowers sort of have these little low, close to them little buds.
Mm-hmm.
Also, deep, deep, deep in the flowers, you'll see little hints of this light, light purple. Sometimes I can pull a little more blue into it. Imply somebody else amongst them. Step back. What's your flowers? How are they?
Mm.
There's some yellows that come around. It can be nice to get them into this. Add yellow. Just painting texture. Add a little red underneath. Sometimes you can create a little stream of color. It might come down. And again, still just this little thing, and we can get a little off white and blue.
Flowers really come together.
Yeah, it's fun to put them out there, isn't it? They represent something so primal. And these are just hints of them, right? These are just kisses of rocks and kisses of flowers. They're not really everything. You know, finally, I might take my smaller brush, my smaller little dog that I had, and I might grab a little of my red and yellow and my brown. Grab that white. Put some sunlight on some of the rock. And put some shadow. Things are as much shadow as they are light. That's a step.
That's a step.
That's a step. I feel like I need a coffee break.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then I can finish the next. The rest of this will go downhill real fast.
Well, hold on just a second. I think I may have something for everybody.
Do you?
Hold on.
It'd be amazing. This is looking so gorgeous. And we need to call the step and take a picture.
Do you?
Yeah, we need to call it. When we come back, do we do this step after the break?
Why don't we go ahead and do a step real quick?
Okay.
Go here. You talk to
Or we
everybody.
should do break.
Oh, no, we should do a break and then a step.
Yeah. We're going to put up the break banner. So I'm just going to get a cup of coffee and Do a little self-care. If you've been sitting for a long time, because again, sometimes you're sitting 3 times as long as I am standing. So make sure that you stop, you stand up, you roll your shoulders, you pay attention that you're not putting tension in your neck, your back, your shoulders, your elbows, your wrist. Any of those support structures that you use for painting is really important. Believe it or not, you can get painting injuries, and nobody wants to explain that to their doctor. How did you get hurt? I was painting.
Okay, can I try something that's completely unrehearsed?
Unrehearsed.
It's unrehearsed.
It's unrehearsed. I love his painting.
So let me see here. Let me find a little thing.
Painting.
I'm gonna just say this for a second. I'm gonna put this up, just so you see. I'm gonna be right back.
Okay.
But we're gonna run a little thing. We're gonna see you guys in just a minute. Okay.
Okay.
All right. See if it works.
Okay. Well, it's time for shameless self-promotion so that John and I can get a cup of coffee or do a little something in the middle of the show. I want to thank everybody who's here painting with us today. If you're really enjoying learning how to paint, I would love to tell you about a program I started 2 years ago now. This will be our 3rd year, called Acrylic April. The number one thing I think makes people better at painting is painting more. And I know in my own life, when I did a daily painting challenge, it really helped me to unlock a lot of new skills and break through a lot of creative obstacles. So in that mind, in 2019, I said, oh, well, one way I can help everybody is to create a 30-day sequential painting program where each painting builds into the next, helping artists improve their skills and overcome their creative blocks and frustrations. I'm so proud of this program, and 2021 is going to be the best one I've ever done. I really hope you'll join me. It doesn't cost anything. I mean, other than art supplies, you got to go buy art supplies. But it's not like it costs anything for you to join me. You just show up on April 1st. I promise it's not a joke. It really is April 1st. That's why we say it's Acrylic April. It's no joke. And join me every single day for a small painting on an 8x8 canvas, broken down step by step, just like you're very familiar with all the extra resources that you guys have come to know and trust. You show up every day with me. We're going to be doing a story of water for 2021, which means if you start on April 1st and paint with me every day through April 30th, at the end of it, you will paint water better. And that's why I say to people, you can paint better in 30 days. Now, what happens when you do a daily painting is you overcome a lot of places that you get in your own way. Because at some point, you just have to finish. You can't, run yourself into the ground about being a perfectionist. You spend the amount of time that we spend painting, and when that one is done, you go on to the next one, and that one is done, you go on to the next one. But inside, your inner artist thrives and grows and develops and starts to put together all the different techniques and how they relate to each other. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, there's always like one painting that frustrates everybody, one painting that's a breakthrough for everybody. The first painting freaks everybody out. There's tends to be a lot of excitement and anxiety, but I've got a lot of resources. We use the same colors every year, which is the colors that we've been using this year in 2021 on the channel. We use a few brushes, which this year we will actually have all the brushes once the series is recorded and up to let you know which ones they are. But you guys remember, the magic is not in the brush. It is in you. And we will be able to come forward and you will see from this calendar the general direction that we're going and how this is a story of water, from the way that light plays across a still surface to the way that water plays with light as it runs down rocks. It doesn't really matter. Water's kind of always the same personality. I really think that you can do this. I think if you can do the time to join me, it will be so transformational for you. You can check out Acrylic April 2019. Well, that's where we're really kind of like learning how to do it. Check out Acrylic April 2020. That was such an amazing year, and it's all there to view now. There's already the resources on how to start a daily painting, and that's like 10 tips you've got to have. There's a color chart to help you get ready for every color mix that you can have. There's an amazing split primary color wheel to explain to you why we picked the colors that we did. There's a blog to break through all the drama I call Naples Yellowgate that Naples Yellow has, but why I bothered to use a color that would cause you guys any frustration at all. I mean, there's so many beginner resources. There's a group, Acrylic April on Facebook, where we share the stuff and all of our feelings and excitement and frustrations and just get together and paint every day. We even have people who've been painting every day since 2019. That's how transformational it is. So I hope you enjoy this promo. Thank you for letting me get a cup of coffee, because like John and I always need the break, and I teach a better lesson when I coffee up, and so does John.
Yep.
And I
coffee.
Are you back from coffee? All right. So we're going to get back and continue teaching you the lesson that you're on. Please consider joining me for Acrylic April, even if it's just for 1 or 2 paintings. There's going to be something in April that you love, that you need to do. Okay, let's get back to our painting. Welcome back for my shameless self-promotion coffee break. You want to throw up a step? We'll get a picture of it. We'll move on to the next one.
What are we even step? Are we on a step 10?
That is not.
I think we're on step 10.
That is you.
There we go.
Oh my God. This is going to be so pretty when it's done. You're going to have relatives that are like, oh my gosh, you can totally paint. I don't know if your relatives talk like that, but that's what my relatives don't talk like that. But in my mind, they're like, oh my gosh, you can totally paint. Do you remember when I did that whole lesson in Valley? That was shockingly wrong. I did an entire lesson in Valley Speak.
Okay, so we're back.
Just wrong.
Painting stuff.
All right, so the next area of flowers along the top of this ridge and down through here, we've got to put the next run of flowers. Very similar to what we did here. You might want to put out some more green and some more brown. You would think I would have done that on break, but no, I was getting myself coffee, guys.
That was a coffee break. That wasn't like
a coffee break, and I needed it. I needed a fresh cup, and I love these lessons. I love teaching these deep dives. They are amazing. I hope everyone give a hand to the moderators who show up for this, because it is wild that we do this and they come. That is incredible, and they're here so that you can have a nice time. I'm taking my phthalo green and my burnt sienna. And I'm going to begin. Very soft line along the mountain edge. Wouldn't it be funny if like Studio Ghibli's like, I cannot believe she associates herself with us. But you know what? Future artists will be working for you for my channel, so they will be all skilled in all things. What's my goal? Sometimes as I go forward, I'll get more into my green. I'll put little pops of that out there. See, it's like a little bit of deep shadow. No.
No.
Remember.
What are we remembering?
I don't remember what I was saying we were remembering. We're going to be running a shadow up here because the ridge has got some real light into it.
That's tremendously anticlimactic.
It was so anticlimactic, but you threw me off, man. No, you didn't. So we're going to create a shadow in this valley because there's this separation of space of the really involved close-up flowers and the out-of-focus flowers. We have to layer up zones for that. Burnt sienna and we got to at least get through here. And I will probably pull the dark value down farther so that when I bring the other plants in, like this, I'll probably continue to deepen that value. Because it'll make it easier. I'm going to be all scumbly here. They're going to be all scumbly. Scumbly is that messy, messy brushstroke. Messy, messy. I'm taking some black. I want it to be real deep here. It is a misnomer that you can't use black in landscape painting. Absolutely you can. Sometimes teachers will discourage that in students because black can gray out colors. What I'll say is the trick is rinse your brush out before you get back into your bright colors. It's okay. Those are just bouncers. They're just bouncers. Get back into my yellow. And I've got little burnt sienna yellow little mix here. Yeah, and white to brighten it. Right. Little white to brighten it. Tappy, tap, 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 tappy. It's okay to get a little yellow, white to brighten it. This is just really at this far off ridge. I want even more yellow. Finding that balance. We want this to feel really almost backlit. So the tops of that green, I'm kind of adding almost this halo, isn't it? This halo sort of comes down here. If you need to, you get a little more yellow into it. And then there's a bit of that halo back here. Halo is where the lighting comes through something and creates almost an angelic little halo. It is one of the fun parts of landscape painting, when you get to have a good one going. Can even get into my Naples yellow. Powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is. Coming forward, I'm definitely going to be in my burnt sienna and green, because we need a range of very deep color here. Through kind of like a strip through here. What's funny?
Okay, so Rosie was just saying, my husband has started assigning hoots to non-painting tasks. For instance, that grocery trip was a 3-hoot task.
The grocery trip is a 3-hoot task. John will verify to your husband. John testify to her husband that it is a 3-hoot trip.
It can be. You know, they're
John is our sacrificial grocery person. He's the one we send in to the COVID to get the groceries. It's sort of funny because he wasn't the grocery person necessarily before, but he is now. It's funny stuff. The COVID's not funny, just sometimes how we handle our relationship to the COVID can be funny.
Although humor helps us
get through.
Yeah. It's up there with painting.
I think it is absolutely critical. Now, I'm not going to be sorry. I'm just pulling this deep value down. This is the anchor under which much of the bright will show. You can see I'm just getting it worked in now. I'm going to come into my green, pull some yellow over into it. There's just this little patch of maybe brighter stuff that kind of comes down here. A little patch maybe perhaps here. Just playful.
Just playful.
Just be playful. Now, do you remember how we did our yellow flowers?
I do.
We're going to do the same thing. We're going to come over here and get a little yellow and cat yellow. Maybe a little brighter. Tap, 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 tap. A little white on it. Give it some variance. So that little white in there. I'm like, ooh, personality.
Mm-hmm.
It's very loosely mixed. And I just capture the top of that ridge. Back here, touch lightly. Some of how I get the stroke is I'm just touching very lightly. And that light touch is all that's needed in that moment, perhaps. Starting to think about, what does the yellow flower say?
Sit down.
It does. Enjoy me.
Have a rest. Join me.
Don't forget how important I am to your well-being. Protect me. And make sure I am there in the future when you look for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it says. I'm going to take a little bit of my cat red and my quin magenta. And a little bit of those paintbrushes. And we can get a little yellow, red, and where we make smaller, lighter strokes. It kind of implies that those flowers are a little further away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A little out of focus. Now, you can be a better gardener than nature if you want. And you can definitively, put some up closer flowers. All right. That is that step.
That is a good step.
It's a good step. Look at your next row of flowers. Don't you feel like you have a wonderful row of flowers?
Mm-hmm.
Nice mountain, a wonderful row of flowers. You're feeling good. The steps are there. They're going to be timestamped so you can find them later. You're like, I think I was on 10. You think you can go back to 10. You don't got to scroll and guess. You can just go to where you were. And that's a really nice feature that I do like about this platform is how, on YouTube and how here we can, absolutely do those things. Now, this group, these are more in detail. These we're thinking more about foliage. We're going to get more into brushes that give us defined edges and values. My puffy was loose? A rogue puffy. All right, I'm going to do my number 8 cat's tongue to do a lot of this because it does nice lines and it does leaves and it does so many different textures. And we've got to really build these, right?
Yeah.
So let's start with a little bit of our green, yellow, and white. You can always get, interestingly enough, darker colors in there. And I'm going to create some little focal bits. I need to get a tip in water, I will. These little stalks kind of little leaves. Just pulling those down on the toe of the brush. This is where the textures start to create some different little plant sensibility. If I want to come back in with some, say, yellow. Look at that. Those little rows, that's a texture. That's a space. Coming through here, we have our usual sort of green, yellow, and burnt sienna. We're going to just put in some foliage. I want to make sure I have some deep foliage too. That little stroke of foliage. There's so many wild little flowers here. Sometimes I'll get more in the green, and you can see how this sort of layers up. And I'll come back through with several different values of green. And we forget, oh, by the way, that yellow and black do technically make a green. Look at that. Don't forget your yellow and black make green. The green you do see in landscape. When I put it here into the shaded area, we can create the sense of plant life and everything there, but it's desaturated, right? Sometimes you've got to be able to desaturate a landscape color. A lot of artists don't like to paint with phthalo green because you constantly have to do what's called knocking it back. And I mean, we can make all of our greens, right? We can make our greens with phthalo blue and cad yellow. We've got a pretty couple great greens with the ultramarine. Having phthalo green in your paint palette is almost a convenience color. I, however, like to have things be convenient for me, so I always have it in the palette because I'm a creature of convenience. I can put some ultramarine in it, get them real deep. So I went burnt sienna ultramarine blue. And look how dark that is. And again, we're just creating little marks of implied leaves. They will build up and layer up. Ultramarine, phthalo blue, burnt sienna. Very dark. Just doing lots of tapping. There's really nothing to do but the tapping for a bit. As we come forward, you know, you can add more kind of blue to this part of the green. Just through here, and I'll make smaller strokes. And that greenery is much darker. I'm kind of doing a stroke that pulls the side. It's implying a lower growth. When you change the directionality of your stroke, where you push and you pull, you change the type of plant that you're talking about greatly.
You really can.
You really, really can. When you change the size of your stroke, you talk about the leaves that you're seeing. And so sometimes it's about weaving a tapestry Like I said at the beginning, it's that last little bit of the painting where it all comes together. Last little bit of the mountain that paints the mountain. Little known fact is that phthalo blue and burnt sienna make a green together.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. They make gray and they make green. If you mix more one way, you'll get more one color. And like, so if you go more blue, it'll be more gray. And if you go more brown, it'll be more green. Very interesting. There's enough yellow. So see how I've got these dark values, but they're layering up as different?
I do see.
And that can be hard to do. How do you paint a lot of green? And I'm just brush and stroking on the end, just letting this kind of imply some leaves. We'll come in and we'll detail out little elemental bits that will stand out. But right now we're building up. Too brown, you just go a little more blue. I can always pull into the green itself. Continue forward. Now I'm going to very loosely paint this quite dark, but that's because I'm going to come back later with different types of plant life. I just want the value to be deep. So I'm going to take green and blue, and you can see paint it very dark. I just want it here at this stage. This is a little different than the row of texture that we've been doing. Just want it to be very dark. You know, you could even sometimes do black, believe it or not, and build up from there. It is, believe it or not, allowed. I don't know why I keep saying believe it or not. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. Okay, that's fine. Creating
This was, see, I have to be careful because this is one of those paintings that has so darks and such lights that the camera can have trouble like
seeing it,
finding the range. And
it does.
This is one of the things that we talk about is like going to your local museum cannot be substituted. No. Cameras just don't
see.
And prints don't reproduce, and there's physical limitations
here,
on
while
imaging.
You go over that, I'm going to dry, and then we're going to call this a step, and then do another step.
Yeah. So, yep, as you guys can see here, these images, I have control back here. I'm going to switch over to this camera. I have control back here of how dark or light I can make things. So I can bring things really far up so you can see it, but it makes the caps, they're a little dark. And as I bring it down so you can see those subtleties, you lose the darks. And this is a problem that you have with any camera. And our cameras are particularly sensitive to low light. But the challenge is that when we do bring enough light in there to get it can overblow the camera. So what I'm trying to say is definitely go to a museum, because what you can see in a museum is way different than what you can see just on a TV or something.
Yeah, it just is. And even in your own house and your own painting. And another thing is sometimes you don't see. The reason we do the zoom in tour at the end is so you can see what my canvas actually looks like. Yeah, I could do what other YouTubers do, which is zoom out and it gets all sort of out of focus. But then when you're at home, you don't realize yours might be just the same as mine.
Yeah.
Right? So we want to zoom in. I want you to see how the brush strokes really show up close, but then as you move back, it visually kind of blends together to create a different painting. So when someone says to you, you've got to step back from your art, they're not at all saying you're supposed to step back from your art, because up on it, it's just a bunch of brush strokes. But when you get back, it becomes a mountain. And that's why you want to do those zoom ins. Are you ready to give me a step?
I believe so. Looking over my step numbers, making sure they're all correct. Yes.
Yeah.
You're correct. Do you want me to take a picture of that one?
Yes. Picture, 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 picture. Picture, picture, picture. Picture, picture, picture. So we're going to be getting into lupines and paintbrushes, red paintbrushes. This is going to be a really fun contrast of colors. We'll probably skew in, the blues and the purples a little bit and really play with everything some because we want it to feel great. We've got some bright greens to get into. We've got some real detailing. So let's enjoy that. Let's pull out our number 4 round brush. This is the Art Sherpa number 4 round brush. And let's start giving ourselves some detail in the greenery. With some highlighted greenery, right?
Okay, I may have been Did I put up 12? I did. Okay.
Was it the right or wrong?
I think that was the right one.
Okay.
Yeah, 12. Okay. We're okay.
So we've got, these wonderful big leaves to build up, but we need to build up another layer of more detailed, kind of thoughtful bits of plants. I'll make little rough kind of touch strokes. These are all still touch strokes. But these are now close enough where we can see the different kind of elements of the plants, the different sort of personality. And so that's what we want to kind of speak to. How they have their kind of little curled leaves. It doesn't have to be everything. It's about how they all go together. You got to give yourself time to get into it. Give yourself different marks and different values. You're playing in the greens just as much as you did before. You're just doing it in a way because you're against this dark contrast where you can really see it. I'm gonna get more in my yellow every once in a while. I'm going to make sure that this line, is lightly breaking up that back line of what's happening. So yeah, there's a shadow between this hill and what's happening here. But I want to distinctly be able to see what's going on here. A little bit of this here. You can also always get your Naples yellow into your green. It makes a very interesting color. It's, you can do it deep and light, but you can get some kind of unexpected hues. Dig. Capturing little bits of leaves and textures. Now remember, through here there's quite a lot of shadow, and then it'll get back into some bright highlights. So we'll get into that when we get down there, but first, let's come here and grab a little of our quinacridone red and our cad red. The small touches imply maybe further away flowers, and then as you paint some defined ones, then they come forward. The brush stroke, the size of it, it does actually matter.
Wow, that's really coming together.
All right, isn't that pretty?
Mm-hmm.
Now I can get some of this color and some dark purple in it. I want to build some of these in the shade. And that's okay to do, build some of them in the shade. Somewhat exists there. Purple in that. But visually to your eye, it's always sort of a joy.
It really looks good. It's a joy to my eye.
It's a joy to your eye. What you're doing is you're making a joy to your eye. I'm going to put out a little purple over by my blue, and I'm put out some more white. And we're going to keep flowering. You want to plant all the flowers in your garden that you can.
Mm-hmm.
When you can. What do I do with my white?
I don't know.
There it is. Like, I don't know. That's white tracking is not me.
Mm-mm. Don't know where the paint went.
Don't know where the paint went. So I very much like the ultramarine blue and dark purple. Little brush stroke curling in. These are spikes, which means the structure of the flower should make a spike.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to play with it. It's okay. Maybe like one would curve over this way.
Mm-hmm.
More purple, perhaps.
More?
You just
More.
decide what works.
You can never have too much purple.
Not in my mind, but maybe in yours. My mom and I used to have an art agent that would say things like, "There's not too much pink in it. I can't sell pink. There's not too much orange." Orange is so it's very. My mom would get so frustrated. She would buy Beanie Babies in the colors that were forbidden and put them in the car like little totems. And these are pretty heavy along that ridge.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a little more white into it. There often is a little bit of a white touch to some of these. Yeah, I don't want
Mm.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah. Really nice.
Enjoy. Just enjoy. I'm going to take some blue and white, my phthalo blue. And give ourselves some maybe little blue flowers as well. That'll be fun. Kind of layered in there. And don't forget, these reds need highlights. I'm going to take my yellow and my red. And highlight some of them. You need a pop of the color. And then sometimes I'll grab some just cad red. Now I also feel like we should have a few yellows because they're everywhere. We had them all over. So I'm going to make sure that there's a place where there's a few yellows sort of close up and floating over in that row. I know it's a journey, guys, like the wave, but aren't you glad we're doing it?
Oh, I certainly am.
'Cause this is a view you could put in your house, and you could look out, and feel maybe a little less shut in. If you are currently shut in, we certainly are sometimes.
Feeling those days.
Add some little white where you want it to be highlighted. What a lovely row. What a lovely row.
It really is.
Let's call this a step. I think I need a fresh water and a coffee heat.
I think that's pretty good.
And we need to put in another larger, more robust line of flowers because we're going to really put ourselves in flowers. If that's okay. I want to be in it. I want to smell. If any of the flowers are fragrant, I want to smell their fragrance. I want to see some of their textures and shapes. I really want it to be like a whole experience for me. From columbines to paintbrushes to tell me all the different wildflowers that you have in your area that you love. I know we love bluebonnets. I love lupines, columbines. What do you love? What do you love? That's what I would say. What do you love? This is just gorgeous. And it's just what I need right now. I just wish I was like my cabin. I had a cabin there, and that was just my view out the front of the cabin. We would just be like, can you imagine a little deer just walking through or a bunny hopping through, birds just flying by? Probably there would be like butterflies and bees and different little kind of floating, flying little flits and flams. It'd be a lot of fun, I think. I think it would be a lot of fun. Very enjoyable. I think we've got to come in and kind of create some small area here and then really go big right here. Don't you think? Go big right here. Go big. I think we need to go big I need fresh water too, babe. So sorry. I'm so sorry. Fresh waters too is fine. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to really kind of exaggerate and get into what's close and really feel it and get the color and the paint thick so that the painting is just, I think in painting we have the opportunity to make more, it's kind of like What Dreams May Come, if you ever saw that movie where their afterlife was in her paintings. That kind of like, to me, I just want to make sure I got a good painting to live in. We're building our painting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm doing. And I liked her thick bits of paint. It really made me super happy. Now I'm going to get back into my scruffy little brush for just a second. And I'm going to pull some greens and yellows and kind of do, it's a little bit in shadow, a little bit out of focus, but I want to make sure that this part here is nice and layered when I do the bigs. Because I'm going to be doing some bigs. You know, and then sometimes, you know, you get some blue, green, put that there. We can always layer the bigs over it, but it's just nice to have that kind of small area. And we can pop a little bit of our and then come in with a little purple. Rinse out, and then go a little bit of our other purple, and then we can go big here. Just touching that. Closer, more substantial, but I do still want it a little less focused. So that my bigs can go right over the top. What I mean is big focal flowers that really pop. And layering that in. Back from that, make sure we're happy with that little corner. A little out of focus, a little thoughtful. That's okay. Back into our green and our number 8 cat's tongue. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to need more red and more magenta and more just all my colors.
Yeah.
Just the way it's going to go. I've got my wet palette, so I don't really have to worry about that.
It helps.
If you are needing to conserve your paint and having your paint last from one painting session to the next, this has been really good. You do have to set it up correctly for it to work. Otherwise, the edges dry and curl and it has problems. But if you do it right, I like have a system. Actually, I'll talk about it on the materials show. Okay. On the materials show. But I have a really cool way to do it. All right, I'm going to grab some of my yellow and green here together. I'm going to be doing my little curl strokes. And sometimes I might grab some brown. I just want to be able to have these be a bit bigger. Just going a bit bigger with these.
Got some more support from our community out here in Super Chat, both
Oh,
Patty and
thank
Trisha.
you.
Thank you. It's good to see Patty back here.
So good to see you, Patty. See, big strokes. Because those are what's closest to it. Those are the most defined. Right? Even my gnomes, you guys, had references. I looked at betta fish. A lot of betta fish for those two gnomes. I think that in painting, my personal opinion is that references are incredibly valuable.
Definitely valuable.
Because even as you, say, change things up or work more painterly, more expressively, the reference helps you know where you can take those risks and what you need to have for the piece to work. Notice that I'm painting in big, expressive strokes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm leaving a shadow here. I'm working heavily in the green. I'm going through my green mix, which, you know, I talk about a lot in my books and painting. We're going to certainly talk about it on the color mixing video, where we go over how I mix all my colors. There we go. Notice I'm keeping some values kind of deep. And that's so that I can build up. Then I will dry, and then we will paint some of the biggest, most gorgeous paint flowers you've ever seen.
You think it's just one more layer there?
I think we've got a little more here in the green.
Yeah.
And then flowers, yeah.
Just a little fill in of that background grassiness.
Just, when you see, you'll be like, what? I know.
Gotta have some grasses.
So beautiful. It's going to be so beautiful. Going to be, if you are a person who is into heaven, which you don't have to be, but it would be like what paradise or heaven is like. Where things are always perpetually blooming. My canvas can be 4 seasons.
That wonderful movie, What Dreams May Come.
Yeah, but it can be. We can be more seasons. Sometimes I'll add white to get some, you know, brighter, closer. Pops of color. Places that maybe the light caught it. And just touching, pulling.
This is just coming along so nicely. It's almost there.
It is. But when it's there, it will be like, what? Yeah, I know. Make sure you got some highlights out there. It can be nice also to vary up the sizes of the stroke and also make some different types of kind of lines and marks. Even though things are close, it can be lovely.
Oh, man.
All right. Now I've got to dry that thoroughly.
Okay.
Because I don't really want my green to get up into my painting. Making sure that this is full and lush.
Yes.
Is lush. is lush. I dry and drink coffee, and John talks to you about the nature of the world
I will.
and how to be a happy person in it.
So you dry your surface, and then we will do that.
And then we do all the flowers, which is the best, most happy part.
Mm-hmm. And that's it, guys. We're almost there to the very end. This is looking super good. I love all the flower parts. And now the most flowery of flower parts is next, where we get to come in here and do the the foreground flowers, which is my favorite. So don't forget, check in the link in the description down below, where we keep information on all of this stuff, where you can find out about the the step-by-step, the traceables, all of that kind of stuff. You know, all that kind of cool stuff. Make sure you thoroughly dry your green between those layers. That way you don't pick up any paint when you're coming along with your next layer. It doesn't muddy up those and drag it along. And let's see what else. Oh yeah. Oh, I thought she gave me a false flag, like she was going to be done. You should check out, if you would like to get text notifications, you can send a message to the phone number 33222, and the message should be the Art Sherpa, all one word. Okay.
I think we're ready for the steppy thing and the photography thing.
Are you ready for the steppy thing?
I think we are. How are we feeling today, guys?
thing.
Do you feel proud of your flowers so far? Are you kind of like blown away by how the painting comes together? You know, I think it's fun to paint. But I also think it gives us a minute to think about how we solve problems in an imaginative way. And I cannot say enough, I think one of the things that we undersource in our world as a species is imagination. It's real easy to see problems in our lives, problems in the world, problems and go, there's no solution. But the only way we're going to find a solution is if we can imagine it. So as you paint, whatever it is you do in your life, whatever path you're in, you are helping that path become more agile, adaptive, and creative.
It's a path.
Yeah. All right. Let us paint. Wonderful flowers. So, I'm going to do cat's tongue again. I'm going to take a little of my, I think I'm going to take a little of my cad red and my diox at first. I'm going to come here.
Ooh.
Very carefully.
That's some impasto paint.
It is, but beyond that, it's up close, isn't it? Sometimes it's good to turn your piece on its side. Good to take these up close ones off the surface. It will give that sense of something being more like, I want you to have the feeling that you're sitting in the flower.
Oh yeah. In the field.
In the field. In the flower. Now, because I'm using purple to deepen it, I will probably at some point dry this.
Gotta channel your inner Ferdinand.
Mm-hmm.
Find peace in the flowers.
But you need to, don't you? Now, there might be like in the whole finishing of it to make it look like the gorgeous that it is. And what I'm doing, what you see me doing here is turning my surface. To make sure that I'm working to the most comfortable space that I can. tempting to rush through here, but it's actually an area where you just want to dig in.
Take it easy.
Take it easy, dig in.
Slow ride.
Yeah, you do. That's pretty good. We're going to let those have a rest in a minute. We also have, if you remember, some of these wonderful blue and purple bits.
Alice says, I'm from Washington. I know this mountain. Thank you. The flowers and the Indian paintbrushes, the buttercups, they showcase one of the mountains wonderfully. Thank you. So thank you, Alice, for coming and being part of our community.
It is so good to hear from you guys when you love the paintings. Deeper dark purple. Sometimes I like to weave some colors, like there's bits peeking out from each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit layered. We'll have one more layer of leaves to do. But let's dry this. And then we have a layer on top of it. And I don't know if we shouldn't just break these down as steps too.
You're going to step it up again?
I mean, if you guys don't mind that there's steps so you can find just that spot or that spot, I don't mind breaking it down into micro steps because I think, again, what you can see and break down, you can do.
As long as we don't run out of numbers, I'm okay. Which I don't think we're going to. I don't think they keep trying to find a new one, but you just add one, and that's a problem. So, philosophical number discussion. We don't teach math here. Don't worry about that. That's just me being silly. So how y'all doing? Thank you for hanging out with us. I see all the emoji club. Thank you guys for emoji club for being part of that craziness. Cinnamon loves to make those emojis. She loves to do that. Thank you for all the super chat support. We really do appreciate you guys. It makes all this possible. So
let's break it down as a step.
As a step.
It doesn't have to be like on the little strip step by step, but it could in the book because I think we can break it down into that. I'm gonna kind of do some interesting things on the up close paintbrushes and on the up close lupine. So that's so cool that people are in the area painting. I grew up in Colorado, so I have like this really fond feeling for columbine flowers. Sitting in a rock, growing all gorgeous, like little wild mountain orchids. It's pretty cool, actually. I'm going to put out a little more. When I think I've got carrot, I might put out a little more orange. We've got some yellow here. I think we're good.
Yeah.
It's really just going to be about, I'm going to get into my number 4, interestingly enough.
The number 4.
And I might kind of turn my canvas. I want to be able to get an angle.
Ooh, you're way up there.
I'm not sure if what it is I want a particular angle so I can get in here.
Uh-huh.
I've got to do this a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
When I used to ride my horses, I used to get to see these flowers up close. It was really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I worry about how much of our world we're taking care of. Because these memories that I have, man, I treasure them. They matter to me. So you can see these are sort of like these longer little petals weaving in.
Yeah.
Mm, 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 mm. Some reason I've got Mamma Mia in my head going right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I cannot get it out. Well, it's really ABBA. I'm gonna own it. It's specifically Mamma Mia. I'm like
Yeah.
not even listening to the ABBA soundtrack. I'm listening to the Mamma Mia soundtrack in my head. A friend of ours actually went and had that wedding. They were like, "It's the Mamma Mia wedding." They just went and did it.
Yep.
Yeah, they got inspired. Spoke to how they felt. Now, when I get here, I'm going to want to get into my yellow, a little bit my red and my yellow. I can even get into my Naples yellow. Oh, that's it. There it is.
Mm.
That's it. My Naples yellow was where the magic sauce was.
That's pretty cool.
Sometimes you just got to find it. It's in your painting. I'm going to keep those kind of focused at the top. There's a little speed to my stroke and flick, and I feel like that's because that energy conveys into the flower.
Yeah.
I can say. I do think it does. This one got a little off on me, so I'm going to come here and fix it. There it goes. If they get off on you, you just come back and put them back where you want them. You're not stuck. You're not stuck at all. It's the cad red and the Naples yellow, and I do think it matters.
Mm-hmm.
Painting, for me, is a window into the world we want to be in. Right? I feel like in painting, sometimes we can absolutely do a little pink and white and take a little bit of our white into our quin. Make sure no, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do it and you're like, nah, I'm not feeling it. Feel that more. That's a little bit better. Yeah, you just sometimes will get in there and you'll be like, am I feeling it? And then I'm going to get more into my CAD. Feel that color? I do.
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel the color. Now, this one where it's going off, you know, we definitely want to feel it. Got to take us to the world that goes beyond what we're seeing on our canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important thing, guys. The world beyond what we're seeing on our canvas. You'll see me pop little bits of red here and there, trying to create visual balance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it needs to dry, and then we got to do another layer.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, no, we're not done. I'm going till it's perfect.
We're just going.
We're going till it's perfect.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to do.
We're going till it's perfect. All right, let's get that next layer on.
She's going to dry that off, and then I think we'll just one more foreground layer. That's what it's going to take to make it work, so that's what we'll do. And just dry those in there. That way when you put the next ones on, they don't smear or move around on you. You know, pretty straightforward stuff. I'm kind of excited to see how it comes together, though. The final layer. It just it takes all that to get that just rolling hill to look that way. But it's worth it in the end.
All right. Take a picture. Sorry,
All right.
Sorry it's going long, babe.
No, don't worry about it.
But it just, woo, so pretty. I just can't stop till it's perfect. I don't know why this is the most steps I've ever done, but it just is. However, the thing is, you guys can paint what you can see. What I can demo, what I can explain, you guys can duplicate. You know, it might take a minute to learn skills. You might have to practice on scratch paper. It's okay if that's the thing. But sometimes if I power through too many steps on you, hard for y'all to see it. And there's this finished painting in my head, and I don't want to back off of it.
I get you.
I don't want to go away from it. It's everything to me. This is really low water.
Need more water?
It's just very little. No, I'm okay right now. It's just very little in the cup.
Oh.
All right. So I'm going to take a little of my phthalo blue and my titanium white. Maybe some of my dark purple. More phthalo blue and titanium white, though. A little more titanium white. It's pretty thick. I'm painting very thick. More phthalo blue. It just pops with the red, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Something a little extra. I'll rinse that out. And then I'm going to take my yellow and my green.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a smidge of white.
Ooh. That really does it.
Doesn't it? A little yellow and green. A smidge of white. We want some of these focal, bright leaves to, again, carry us a little deeper into the painting. Now a little bit.
Oh man, you got me jumping all over the place.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just
Just finding those moments. Right? You're looking. Because this part is saying this world this is it. This is what you've been looking for.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you've been looking to rest and calm your mind. This is where your soul feel at peace. Where the air is sweet. All right. Did it.
Did it.
That's it.
That looks pretty great.
What do you guys think?
I think the only thing you need to do is sign it.
I think I do, but I think I'm going to need to dry it to sign it,
You're
to
probably
be
gonna need
really
to dry it.
honest.
That's okay. You can dry it.
Okay. Woo! We did it.
And I'll say thank you guys for joining us today. It's really been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to see everyone. Don't forget to check in the link in the description down below to find information about the booklets, free booklets you can download and use. And there's some for this painting that are coming because it takes us a little time to do them. So they're not always available at the time of release of a video, but generally about a week or two behind. You can find them. So check in the link in the description down below if you're a time traveler looking for that. Otherwise, check out the other what do you call them? Projects that we do. Also found in the link in the description down below, as well as a link to our website and to our store. We sell stuff, by the way. You could find
Acrylic April.
Acrylic April.
Paint like this with ease.
Yay!
Yay!
All the things.
All the things. I'm going to put out a little white paint.
White paint. All right.
I am.
I feel like somehow this camera has continued to get wonkier and wonkier as we've gone. Look, see,
as we've gone live?
It's like it's just turned. I don't know what happened to it.
I don't
it
know.
Got wonked.
Did I wonk it?
No, I don't know. I think I'm gonna blame it on the dog.
Let's blame it on the dog. She's so sweet, though. I don't think she did it. I'm going to take a little of my white and blue. Oh, sweetie, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. We go cuddle.
She's like, I want to go run in the snow.
She is. She's like, it's time to go out. You paint too long. I paint too long.
She's ready to play.
I think everyone is ready to play. All right, guys.
That's a mountain.
Is a spring. This is a mountain with wildflowers, right? Spring mountain wildflowers.
You have made Thorin Oakenshield proud.
I feel like I have. Haven't I? I feel like I have. Like, I would go walk to that mountain and no, I wouldn't actually. Bug Smile gets one creature. It's really rare. I'm just going to let him have the gold. I don't know what those people's problems were.
You know, everybody in Washington.
I mean, it's one dragon. Let him have the gold. Move village.
But everybody in Washington likes this one too.
Yeah.
So it's not just dwarves, hobbits, and elves that like it.
It's not just dwarves, hobbits, and elves. This should be something that's beautiful. It's fun on your wall. It should really pull you in. And I like the idea when you do close focal flowers and then you pull it smaller and smaller and you have stuff like a path in. It takes you into the landscape. It lets you be in there. There's enough of your imagination left in here where you can exist inside of it. And building up these layers like this, it really helps us. And I think this is what gets people when they're new, is that when you know what's involved in the construction of a painting, I may call this 3-hoop, but that's because there's a lot of color mixes, there's a lot of steps, right? But each step in and of itself, that's doable, right? If you do each step and you power through, you're going to see how the layers work. Those layers will come together. The trick about the painting is not to be perfect, but just to finish.
Yep.
Right? Because the journey, that was about the time you spent creating it. The result is a nice side effect of that experience. Are you ready to take them on a tour?
I am, totally.
They should see the tour. It's so gorgeous. Be good to yourselves. Seriously. Be good to each other. Be nice out there. And I want to see you and Anisel really soon. Bye-bye.